Hello and welcome to the Wee Ball Podcast. Week 7 of the college football season has come to pass, and Tyler DeSena and Luke Crummich, we're here to talk about it. It's what we do. Folks, it was an epic week. Tyler, initial thoughts, get them off your chest.
Yeah, really exciting week. Obviously, we had an absolutely fantastic game between Washington and Oregon. That was kind of the highlight of the week. But for a draft-centric podcast, we had a bunch of other guys ball out that we're excited to talk about. And just in general, it was a fun week of college football. And I feel like we've finally crossed that barrier where, now we've gone through 6 games for most of these teams. We're moving on into the second half of the season. And this is where things usually start to get really fun. So I'm really excited to preview this week's upcoming games, talk about last week, and really get into the nitty-gritty of the college football season.
Yeah, and we are a draft-centric podcast, and for that reason, we are going to talk about the UNC Tar Heels, Tez Walker and Drake May. They have arrived, and it was a very weird Drake May game. Very low completion percentage from Drake May, something he's not used to. He was sacked a lot. He went up against one of the better secondaries in the country, and Tez Walker had 3 touchdowns on 6 catches for 132 yards. He is a top 32 player in the class. I don't care. But that being said, I'm really here and I'm really talking about this game to make a declaration. I am officially naming Drake May my QB1 of the cycle thus far. I've had enough. He is a quarterback. He's a better quarterback just in general. I think every week he improves. Every week he faces a different challenge and jumps the hurdle, unlike Caleb Williams has been doing of late. The things I wanted to see from him was play make, don't be scared to get hit, do your thing, trust the offense, trust your wide receivers. And he's doing that. And I think Tez Walker has made a big difference in that, gaining him that confidence, But he was inaccurate. He didn't play incredibly well. Still 273 and 4 touchdowns. But like for a Drake May type of guy who's not used to getting hit, he still had 10 carries for 10 yards because of sacks. But the guy did his thing. I think he's the better quarterback. And I'm starting to get sick of some of the antics we've been seeing from Caleb Williams. But Tyler, it's your turn to talk about this game before we get into all of that.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it. I'm not sure that I'm ready to declare anybody my QB1 yet, just because I feel like, I mean, obviously, yours is subject to change because it is only 6 weeks into the season. But even then, I don't feel comfortable just because there are so many guys that I really like, and I'm kind of waiting until I watch more like actual tape in all 22 to get there. But Drake May is a really, really good quarterback. But like you said, I don't even think he was the star of this game. Tez Walker had an absolutely phenomenal day. And it just shows that this North Carolina team is going to be so much fun down the stretch because, like you said, they played a pretty good secondary in Miami. That's the team that gets feisty back there, and they have a
Two
bunch
NFL
of
safeties.
2 NFL caliber safeties. Why do you think it was so hard for Drake May to push the ball down the field at times? It's because of those guys. And then you still have a guy like Tez Walker going for 6, a buck 32, and 3 touchdowns. He's legit. Drake May, we know, was legit. Omarion Hampton had a crazy game on the ground, but I think that this team is going to be a really fun team to watch down the stretch just because, like you said, they've got some ACC opponents left. They have a schedule where they could potentially stay undefeated for a reasonable amount of time. And then if it gets to that point, you're going to watch them competing with some of those better teams in the country for, the ACC championship. So I think they're a really fun team led by an NFL caliber quarterback, and at worst right now, the quarterback 2 in this entire class. So I think you just about covered it. Drake May is really exciting. Tez Walker is absolutely dominant. And now that he's
Electric
back, they're going to
factory.
be so much better. And it's just, this team is really exciting.
Yeah. But now I think we have to talk about the other guy on the other side of the coin, who I will be moving down the ranking because, man, not an awesome week to be Caleb Williams. You lose to Notre Dame. You get bullied by Notre Dame. Like USC got bullied by Notre Dame. That was not an awesome game for them. 48-20. Caleb threw 200 yards, basically a touchdown and three picks, three relatively easy picks where he just didn't see it and threw the ball to the defender. Like these were not like crazy plays made. These were relative bog standard picks. Like we're not talking crazy acrobatics here. Sam Hartman just managed the game. Estime might be Jerome Bettis reincarnate. He's like a baby bus. He's like a short van, you know what I'm talking about. And now we're getting reports that he wants ownership of the team that he gets drafted to. Like, Caleb, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to go to a team that you want to go to, but this is a bad look. Am I crazy
It
for calling this like a really bad look?
it is it's just weird to be. I mean, we don't know the true validity behind this. We don't know how,
Of course.
because a lot of these rumors do come out and then they end up being false. But if he really is seeking ownership in a team, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm pro player empowerment, I'm pro all of that. But the draft is the draft for a reason. And like the idea of trying to use this to manipulate where you want to go, which is kind of what we've believed Caleb Williams is probably doing, that's the part that scares me. I don't really want to have this cycle where it's like this player just kind of, trying to manipulate his way down the draft board. And then you have all these teams that could just use a Caleb Williams. And then all of a sudden we get scared to take him. Don't get me wrong, fun storyline, but the draft is the way it is for a reason. And I think that these little manipulation tactics can get a little weird. But as for the game itself, when you see Audric Estime only have, I mean, 22 carries for 95 yards is nothing to slouch at. But when you see him go for under 100 and you see Sam Hartman had 126 passing yards, you're like, yeah, okay, USC rolled through this. Caleb Williams had 5 touchdowns, 400 yards. They won the game handedly because honestly, with the defense USC has, Audric Estime only having 95 yards is a pretty astounding statistic there. But when you realize that it happened because of the fact that Caleb Williams went 23 of 37, had 3 interceptions, and they just kept putting them in positions to make plays, like for that defense to make plays. There were kick returns, fumble returns for touchdowns. The entire USC team just felt like they got like bullied. I mean, they got like, it was just not a strong showing from just about anybody. I mean, they had more total yards, more passing yards than Notre Dame, and they still, could not come out with anything really on offense. And
Lost
I
by
mean,
18.
28 actually.
28. I can't count. Oh my God.
They
They lost
lost
by
by
28.
4 touchdowns, man, and it's just that it just doesn't make sense. This team, we knew USC wasn't perfect, but just these are the kind of losses when your team isn't necessarily built sustainably. Their defense is, like we've said, leaves a lot to be desired. Their offense, when Caleb Williams isn't rolling and isn't able to make a lot of those plays out of structure, it turns into games like this. And it's a really disappointing thing for a team that we were so excited for and has played really well at times, but they're just not where they need to be.
Attention fantasy football fanatics, as draft season approaches, don't neglect the most important draft pick of all, your game balls. We all know how injuries can ruin a season, so let Manscaped take care of that Reggie Bush of yours with their skin-safe technology. That should guarantee you to have a smooth ride into the playoffs. The leaders in the below-the-waist grooming have created a championship lineup with their Performance Package 4.0, and it's time for you to do the same. Join the 9 million men around the world who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping when you use code WEBALL. We all know that confidence is the biggest thing, whether it comes to recording a podcast, interviewing professional athletes, playing on the field, or even trimming below the waist. And for that last one, Manscaped has helped out tremendously with their Performance Package 4.0. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and even a travel bag. Slotted at quarterback, we've got the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. This spaceship is here to guide you on your journey to trim your body, balls, and even your A-gap. This fourth generation trimmer also features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on-off switch that can engage in a travel lock, and is even waterproof. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 4000K LED spotlight, brighter than Bryce Young's future in the end zone. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker, the ultimate flex. Watch it run through your ear and nose hairs like Aaron Donald runs through to sack your favorite quarterback. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual blade system. This ear and nose hair trimmer provides proprietary skin safe technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those sensitive ear and nose holes. Don't forget to use the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver to help your little bench warmers be on their A game while feeling the sun's heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to the Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. So who's the commissioner now? Get 20% off plus free shipping with code WEBALL at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code WEBALL, WEBALL, at manscaped.com. It's time to put the PP back in PPR and get a grip on your pigskin this season with Manscaped.
And teams in their conference are where they need to be. And those 2 teams are Oregon and Washington. I picked the winner in this one. I was correct. Washington won. We had Penix freestyling on the sideline right before throwing a game winner. Hard, cool. Don't be Drew Lock, but really cool. Mostly because I don't like Drew Lock. Nothing against Penix, just to be clear. That was an incredible game of football.
Yeah.
Both sides, NFL talent versus NFL talent. Really good coaching versus really good coaching, just duking it out in all phases of the game. It ended up coming down to, hey, Rome's a guy, and I don't think anyone else on that field is as good of a prospect as he is at this point. Like, they didn't have anyone who could contain Rome. And I am a big Kyrie Jackson guy, Alabama guy. But he just couldn't keep up, and he couldn't handle the physicality plus the speed and the athleticism and the route running and the technical ability of Rome. And I mean, it ended up showing. Obviously, Troy Franklin did have more yards than him, but 8 very healthy receptions, very helpful receptions for Michael Penix that got him 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he was probably as good as any player in the nation. Him and Tez Walker this week, and he's so much fun to watch. This Washington team's so much fun to watch, and they didn't even have McMillan for most of the game, if I'm not mistaken. I think he went out in the first quarter. Maybe he didn't even play. I don't know. But man, I don't think he even played McMillan.
And McMillan's he did not register any catches or anything.
And he's like an early round wide receiver in the NFL draft this year.
Yeah. Like, I mean, overall, this game is just team. They're a really exciting team. And what it is it's just like that offense is so much fun to watch because it's like watching somebody play Madden because of the fact that they are the definition of vertical passing attack. Everything is down the field. There's so much long developing stuff. And when you have a quarterback like Penix who, has a little bit of a wonky motion, but like has that just absolute cannon put on his shoulders, he launches that ball down the field and it's so much fun to watch. And then, like you said, I mean, I don't think that there's much stopping Rome from if he continues this trajectory going in the first round of the draft. I mean, he's going in the first round of the draft. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that there's much changing for him. He's probably wide receiver 3, 4.
Pushing 2. He's pushing for 2.
Pushing for 2. He's an
3 to 4 is hot right now.
That whole the whole like top tier of receivers is just, you can really order them in like a bunch of different ways, and I would not be bad at you, but Rome has to be up there because he's such a smooth player. That's what makes him so much fun, is the dude just, he moves so fluidly at 6'3", 216. And you watch him and you're like, oh yeah, that's probably like a 5'11". Like you would look, sometimes I watch him and I'm like, oh, it's like an OBJ sized guy. Like he plays big, but there's no way he's actually that big. And it's like, no, he's 6'3", 216 pounds. Like the dude is like, he's built. He's like, a little lanky, but I mean, like 6'3", 216 is nothing to slouch at. He makes all kinds of plays. Great ball tracking ability, great route running. This is just a really, really strong wide receiver in a class that already has a bunch of strong wide receivers who keep playing out of their minds. We know about Marvin Harrison. I'm always going to push for Keon Coleman because he's playing out of his mind this year and he's a Seminole. I mean, Rome's not even the only good receiver on his team. You brought up McMillan, who didn't play. There's just so many fun guys in this draft, and I felt like it was time to highlight Rome because, man, he was playing insane this game.
Yeah, and now we have to talk about one more thing before we get to our game picks. 5-2 Rutgers. It's time to talk to your families about 5-2 Rutgers. I'm kidding, folks. I promise you I won't make you sit through that the way I have to sit through it every week because it's not a fun team to watch, but we're winning games, and that's what matters. In all seriousness, it is time for us to make our picks, and it's Homer week. We have already talked about who we are going to pick this week. It's Homer week. I'm picking Alabama, Tennessee as my game of the week because I have to. It's time that we get revenge, Alabama, and for what happened last year. And it's crazy to say get revenge after losing once after 13 years of domination, or 16 years of domination. 2007. Like that's how long it's been. We lose one game and this is my Super Bowl. So I am picking the Alabama Crimson Tide. I just don't think Joe Milton's a good quarterback, and that's what it comes down to. Like, I don't think he can run that offense at a high level. I don't think he can run really any offense at a high level. But that's a song for another time. It's just like I wouldn't trust a guy named Robbie to run my offense. I wouldn't trust Joe Milton to run any offense. But Tyler, it is your turn to pick this game. Go for it, big guy.
I know Alabama wants revenge. There are a lot of guys on that team who were there last year and, witnessed what was, I think one of the biggest shocks of the year. Like, I mean, I know Alabama wasn't a perfect team, but just the fact that they got it handed to them, like for that entire game. It was just aerial attack over and over and over again. So many deep shots down the field. And I know that a lot of this team is going to want some revenge, and there's no guy I trust more to put together a defensive game plan in college football than Nick Saban and company. I think I'm going to pick Alabama. They are just a really, really deep defensive roster. You've talked about just the countless names up front. Caleb Downs on the back end, who's playing great. They've got just a whole bunch of guys who can go out and make plays, and the amount of guys that have improved and the amount of guys that left for Tennessee who really made that offense run at such a high level last year when they had Hendon Hooker, Hyatt, Cedric Tillman. I'm going to pick Alabama this time around. I think that in your Super Bowl, as you called it, you're going to get some revenge.
Listen, we only lost by 3, but it felt like we lost by 20. Like it was demoralizing because of how the game was played. We lost by 3 points. It was 52-49. Bryce Young worked miracles, and we missed a long field goal.
He worked miracles all season with that Alabama team.
It was so bad. But let's move on. I don't want to think about it. I really don't want to think about it. Tyler, it is your time to pick your game of the week.
You're right. Let's think about something good, something positive. We've got a really potentially fun game between 5-1 Duke and 6-0 Florida State. Like Luke said, this is Homer week. We're both picking teams that we really, really enjoy watching. And obviously, me being a Nole myself, I had to go with this game because not only is it Florida State who, it seems like they're kind of back rolling now. They just had like an awesome game against Syracuse where they looked really good, pulled away. They seem like they're finally starting to, get things moving. And Duke, on the other hand, has potentially Riley Leonard and Graham Barton coming back. They're both optimistic potential to play. Like we don't really know, but if
it looks like Graham is 100%.
Looks like Graham's 100%. There's optimism behind Riley Leonard. And that's really the reason I'm picking this game because there's two really exciting quarterbacks in this matchup. Jordan Travis is probably one of the least talked about quarterbacks in the nation, despite being really, really good this year and being like a Heisman like favorite for like a major, not a full-on favorite because it was Caleb, but right behind Caleb for like a majority of the offseason. Now, because the numbers aren't insane, he's played extremely efficient ball, but because the numbers aren't insane, people aren't talking about him, but he's having a really good year. And then on the other side, you've got Riley Leonard, who we've called America's quarterback, I think, handful of times, because that dude's got swagger. He can move. He can make plays. And I think that that's a really exciting proposition against this Florida State defense that has allowed some playmakers to go out and make plays. If he can, get a couple, if he can start attacking vertically into that secondary, that's where Florida State has issues. And that's where it could be a really interesting matchup. So, I mean, as much as I really do like Duke and I like the players they have, I'm going to go with Florida State here. I feel like they're the better team. They're undefeated to this point. Every test that they've come to, they've, been able to win games. So I'm going with FSU, going with the Seminoles, going with my home team. Luke, who's your pick for this one?
All right. If Riley Leonard is playing and Riley Leonard is 100% healthy, he's able to move and he's not sitting back there Tua versus LSU 2019. He's able to throw the football. He's able to run around and scamper a little bit. Yes, scamper. I'm picking Duke. I have faith in this team mostly because of Graham Barton and Riley Leonard, but they also have really, really good depth. I think they have a very underrated secondary because their two best corners or their two best DBs are sophomores. We don't talk about sophomores. We talk about freshmen, talk about juniors, we talk about seniors. That's it. Sophomores get no love unless they're a quarterback. But I mean, without Riley Leonard, this team only had 100 yards passing. Their leading rusher had 123 yards, and they put up 24-3 versus 4-3 NC State, who were 4-2 beforehand. That's a very impressive defensive showing. They held them to 3 points, and I feel like I have to if Riley is playing. If not, this is a wash, and there's no reason for me to even talk about this game, and it is very obviously FSU. But for right now, I am tentatively picking the Duke Blue Devils.
Well, I think that just shows, Luke being potentially wrong again. However, I will be at this game. We'll definitely be breaking it down next week if Riley Leonard plays, just because that is such an exciting matchup. And we have a bunch of exciting matchups coming this week and the weeks to come. So I think that kind of wraps us up. I know that I don't know if you have anything else you want to talk about, but I know that you have your little spiel. So I'm giving you the floor. Go for it. Take us home, Luke.
Listen, I'm sick of the comments talking about my outro. It's one guy, and that's it. But I'm sick of him.
We're calling him out. I don't know his
name, but next week I will know your name, sir. And we don't promo so much. We get to the point on this podcast. It's a 30-minute podcast. We have Zoom free, which means we have 40 minutes max, and we have to talk about the podcast beforehand. So like, comment, and subscribe, and stop talking about my outros. Have a good day. We ball.